I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. You should cut ties with all the boneless lies that you've been living with. And if you do not want to be my friend again, I will not understand. 'Cause I'm an American. And I don't love anyone who doesn't have the same view or opinion on life as me. 'Cause I'm an American. Patriotic bars, ladies and gentlemen. Patriotic bars. If you are one of the people, the very few select people who watch the actual video of this podcast, the video quality has been changing a lot throughout the few, and I'm working with some new equipment. Your boy is always investing in himself, okay? I don't dabble in luxuries, okay? You're never gonna find me with some brand new chanclas or some nice zapatos or something that just doesn't make sense. I'm very functional. I'm not very much for the flash. Something like a $10,000 purse, or I don't even know, not that I would use that, but if you want to wear a purse and you're a man, go for it. But I don't find, if something, I'm going to pay for something, it's going to be somehow improving my life or investing in my life. Okay? You'll never catch me with Gucci unless this podcast gets sponsored by Gucci. Well, in that case, call me Gucci Man, baby, you know? So the quality, everything's been changing, okay? This podcast is always changing, always growing, always evolving. Maybe fall a couple steps back, but then we go forward, you know? Yeah, and that's the thing. That would be my advice for anyone who is trying to do something on their own, is just keep investing in yourself, okay? If you develop skills on your own that nobody can fuck with, you got to build your own boat. Someone who really cemented that for me was Sam Tripoli, a comedian, and we were talking backstage at Levity, and no big deal, hashtag name dropping, and he kept saying the way that comedians, and this was, I say it cemented me in my thought process, it steeled my mind, if you will, is that he was saying, you have to become untouchable. If you know who Sam Tripoli is, he's a comedian that he does his own thing. He beats to his own drum, and he's kind of off the grid of mainstream media / celebrity, and he's in the trenches, well respected by all comics because he's a comics comic. I was actually working a job at Levity, doing photography for them for one of the shows, which, I look at as a network business investment. And as soon as I told him I was a comedian, he changed the way he was. He said his name, he introduced himself again, shook my hand, and then he said, "It's nice to meet you, Evan." That was my first encounter with him. It was a couple years ago. And instantly, I knew that this dude was something special, and that I really respected that. And he set the tone for, I was like, this is how you have to be. Whenever you move up in a field or something, is you always have respect for people lower on the totem pole, if you will. But Sam was one of those people who said, if you build your own boat, they can't fuck with it. You got to build your own thing that can float on its own. And then you don't need other people. You're not stressed. You're not worried. And I think we've seen that play out pretty recently in some cases. There's been some witch hunts going on cancel culture, on comedians, and anything to try to cancel people. And they just went after Joey Diaz. He made a joke, straight up a joke. If you know Joey Diaz in the comedy world, he's salt of the earth. But here's the thing. The dude has a past. He's been to jail a few times. And did he kidnap someone and put him in his trunk? Yeah, he did, but he did his time. Okay. He had a hell of an upbringing, and he's only been trying to do positive things with his life. And he makes jokes. His kind of comedy is, he calls himself Uncle Joey. And to be honest, he's my Uncle Joey. And he goes for the shock value of humor. It is hilarious. He's the kind of dude that you wish was at the barbecue, just saying such inappropriate jokes, and you're dying laughing. And they tried going after him for him being shock value on Joe Rogan's podcast like 10 years ago. And he said something that if the girls wanted stage time, they would have to suck his dick first, Joey Bars. And it was very funny the way he said it. Joe Rogan was dying laughing. But they tried canceling him over this, and he was joking. That's the thing, is like all the women comedians who actually know him came out and said, dude, Joey has never done anything but tell me he loves me, and not for my body or not for anything, but he loves who I am, always supports me. He's always taken female comedians on the road and given people opportunities. He was just making a joke, all right? And cancel culture came from him. And you know what this motherfucker did? He said, if you guys didn't like that clip, you're going to love this one then. And he put out a clip about him fucking this lady with a pig leg. Like, they were trying to burn down his house, and he put gasoline on it. Like, and just was just like, suck my dick. That's what he said to cancel culture. His words, not mine. But I loved it. And the thing is, have you ever seen when Thanos in Endgame, Infinity War, is Iron Man is throwing down the gauntlet on him, on Thanos' home planet, and he's literally doing everything he can to take down Thanos, pulling out all the stops, the tricks, all the bells and whistles. And then when he's all tired, Thanos just looks at his face and he just pulls a little paper cut, and goes, all that for a drop of blood. That's what they did to Joey Diaz. You can't, anything that made him bigger, he absorbed all that shit like fucking Black Panther's suit, and was just like, Wakanda forever, you know? And that's the whole idea. And what I'm trying to say is that if you build your own shit and you can float without anybody else, you're going to be good, baby. Okay. You diversify a little bit. You have some different incomes coming in, just enough. Don't overextend yourself. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Evan's Financial Podcast. What the fuck? I'm actually pretty stoked today. This is just a random fact that happened. Maybe that's why I'm going down this financial thing. Paid off the last little bit of credit card I owed in a pandemic. Feeling good. Yeah. And I think that's been my thing, is that for my business, I had to buy some things, and I was like, okay, I can pay this off over time. And I did. But the whole trick is just not being overextended. Don't get that crazy car, you know? I drive a Toyota Corolla. It's paid off, and I love it. Not having that crazy bill every month, extra $300, $400. Nah, that means I have fuck you money. That means I can say, nah, I don't want to do that because I'm not worried about overextending myself. God damn it, Amazon notifications. Anyway, back to the podcast. So build your own boat, kids. Shout out for Sam Tripoli giving me that metaphor. It's interesting meeting comics. Comedians are a whole spectrum, you know. There's a spectrum of, being at the Comedy Store and in the hallways with like Joe Rogan, who's like a goddamn planet. You're just like, it's a trippy moment to be in the same room. And then there's, comedians that orbit him, and they're very cool. Sam Tripoli, who I've mentioned. But then there's different breeds of comics. There's bitter comics. There's older comics and that was something that I've kind of always liked, keeping the mindset of like, we're all in this shit, and it's not, there's enough for everybody. With the internet, there's enough for everybody. There's never going to be a point where, maybe in the future, but at this point, I don't see it going there, where there's not enough room for everybody to exist and to have success with comedy and everything. If another comedian does good and books something, that just means that there's more opportunities for comedians. But then when you don't have that mindset, you become a bitter comedian, and you become if you're funny, that means that I'm less funny. And I've been around those comedians, older, bitter comedians who never quite got off the local circuit. And I've had some interactions. I'm not going to say any names, but I've had interactions with comedians, and I'm just like, this is gross as fuck. And there was one that I had this interaction where he pretty much tried like, oh, that's cool. My light just went off. We're just going to keep it going in dark mode. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it'll come back on. That's not good though. Anyway, I had this, maybe that's because I'm telling a dark story. I had this interaction with this comedian where he tried flexing in the sense of like, oh, he was the big time comic. And it was when I was only probably like 6 to 10 months in. So I was brand new, open mics, had only done maybe 1 or 2 shows, but I was hitting mics probably on average, I would say like 8 to 15 mics a week. Just putting in work, trying to grind. I got started in comedy a little bit later. You know, I grew up doing music and doing like comedy and YouTube videos and everything like that. But as far as stand-up comedy, the actual art form of getting on stage and doing it, I started late, you know? So I was like, I need to play a lot of catch up. So when I got in these altercations, it was a very like, okay, you're at a point right now where you think you can do this. And yeah, you're more successful right now in the sense of you're a medium-sized fish in a pond. But guess what? I'm spiteful. I'm the person that if you tell me not to do something or that I can't win at something, guess what? I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. And here's the thing. Once I get there and I win, I'm not going to rub it in your face. I'm just going to keep it moving, pimping. You know? That's the thing is I just take shit as fuel. I don't need to have revenge. I don't need to kick someone when they're down. But I acknowledge it and it's fuel. Whenever anybody puts me in a situation where I can't, I feel like I'm losing or I lost or something like that, I just go, okay, I'm going to get back. Okay. You give me a little bit of time and I'm going to win this. But I'm going to do it in a very classy way. And I'm just going to keep it moving, pimping, you know? What is it? Success is the best revenge? Bars. Whoever said that. I think it was like Jay-Z or some shit. I don't know. Everybody said that. But, yeah, getting back on the mindset is I think that's the mindset of people who don't build their own boat. It's very scary because you're almost just drifting in the ocean on a piece of wood. And you need every single piece of wood to try to build some kind of life raft. And you want to take it from other people because, oh shit, I might need that because I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive on my own. So I think that's what breeds that kind of mentality. I got to try to fix this light. I don't know what the fuck happened. Hold on. I'm still talking. I refuse to make cuts on my podcast. Oh shit, we back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. We back, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like it's brighter now. God. Ever evolving, you know, there's always going to be changes. What were we talking about? People with the choices, things people do. Happy 4th of July, you know. I saw this thing that 4th of July was canceled. There's going to be a protest near where I live, apparently, on the 4th of July. And that they said that 4th of July is canceled. I know one person that would be excited about that, my dog. My dog would be pretty stoked if 4th of July was canceled. I did see that Governor Newsom was doing some kind of press conference that we're not going to have fireworks this year. Okay, good luck with that. And that there is people shouldn't be in big crowds. We got all the beaches closed, which I think is a good idea, you know, especially if we're really dealing with a pandemic still. And you can think that, oh, people aren't dying and everything. When hospitals start getting closer to their capacity, it is an issue. Just in a sense of the people are going to die. And I think, if anything, people have shown that they're not responsible. And people, and this is the thing, this is my philosophy on it, is that people should be able to take care of themselves and have enough common sense to be decent and to be able to like be responsible for themselves, you know? And we should be able to trust people that they're mature and make the right decisions when they're in those situations. But the thing is, dumb people exist. And there's so many of them. And I'm like, I think some people are showing that we can't be left to our own devices. And they're ruining it for a lot of people that are responsible but that's just what happens. That's life. People just always, it's like you're only as good as your lowest level of a society. And we got to accept responsibility for that. So they're closing the parks. I don't know about the parks. They're closing the beaches because of the influx of people from Los Angeles, which I don't think is a bad idea. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting with a protest going on down the street. It said it was the biggest one in Ventura's biggest rally. Okay, cool. We're going to do a rally when we're supposed to be avoiding crowds. Okay. It's interesting because I'm like, when does this go when we are seeing the surge in cases and everything? When does this go from where your protest starts becoming more harm than good? Okay? People know people are upset and we're trying to make changes. Is there another way that we can do this? Because you can say, hey, we should social distance and we should, make sure you wear a mask. People aren't doing that. They're not. You look at some of these pictures of these protests, and there's definitely people not wearing masks. I would say more people than not are not wearing masks. And it's the same thing. You have to accept responsibility for the lowest spot in your society. I need to figure out a better way to say that because I really like that idea. That I learned that from working with this homeless foundation. It was a hired job. I was not donating my time. And they were talking about how a city is only as good as its lowest level of society, which was the homeless problem, which is why it needs to be addressed and taken care of, is dealing with the homeless, because that's only as good as your society. And I think that's the same thing with protests. I think that's the same thing with police officers and families and relationships and even individuals, if you think about it, that you're only as good as the lowest form of yourself. Okay. That's what's always interesting is the altercations that people have in life. I think that's why it's important to get as much fulfillment out of what you do with your life, is because you can avoid being the lowest form of yourself. Bars. Deep life, spiritual bars. Because it's like, I would say once every couple months, I hit like a lowest form of myself or something, anything. I'm just in one of those moods where the planets align in a bad way. And if I happen to get into an altercation, I could go down a path where it's like it's not going to be good. And it's because whether just the odds ever not being in my favor, or I haven't been getting enough fulfillment with what I'm doing. I'm on edge, I'm frustrated, and it was just bad timing. But then I could have that altercation when I'm in a good place, and it's just I completely de-escalate the situation, and it's not bad. And when I say de-escalate the situation, and like whatever situation I'm talking about, it could be an argument, it could be a fight, it could be getting in a car accident, which I haven't gotten in years, or just a weird altercation with someone. And rather than getting into it, you just de-escalate. Like, there's bigger fish to fry. But you catch me on that wrong time, and I'm like, today I got time, You guys ever seen that video? If you haven't seen that, you got to Google. The kid says, catch my fade. I didn't have time, but today I have time. Bars. So great. But yeah. Getting back on topic, I didn't even have a topic. I didn't even really have things to talk about today. I kind of wrote down a couple things that were topical. Ellen DeGeneres. This is what's interesting is I think there's some good coming out of cancel culture, okay? Because there's some things that have been talked about forever that are finally coming to the light. And this is a whole movement of progress in the sense of independent media. Hollywood, I feel like, is holding on by a thread. And it's like some things can't last anymore in the sense of forms of entertainment, because it's just like, how long can you keep this gimmick going? When you talk to like the late night host and everything like that, like Kimmel and Conan, and who was the one who really talked about it a lot? He's an older fella. Late night with, he has glasses. a great host. He went on to have a Netflix show where he interviewed certain guests. I can't believe I'm blinking. He had a big beard at one point, circle glasses. He's one of the best, and it's not to do with the chin. But he talked about why he left late night, and it's because there was nothing exciting about the guests. He wasn't interested in actually having these conversations. He was just like, I have to sit here and pretend that I'm into what Ariana Grande is saying, or this new band that I know nothing about, or this actress that I don't give a shit about this movie. It's not for me, but I have to do this back and forth banter every night with so many different people, and it's like none of it feels genuine. And it the same thing with what was it, Jon Stewart. He just recently went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about that format of the show, of having to come up with different things, and after a while it just all gets so repetitive and so redundant that because he was constricted to that certain format that was just sound bites and quick things, going for this joke. And even though he was probably the best, Jon Stewart, at what he did, it just got so redundant and repetitive. But leading me to say that Ellen DeGeneres is apparently she's getting canceled. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Ellen DeGeneres, there's been so many stories about her with how she treats her staff, how she treats guests, and a lot of it is coming out. She always looks to me like her breath smells like tuna. And I swear that isn't a lesbian joke. That is literally, I don't know why she always looks like she just ate a tuna fish sandwich. And it might be this, because I heard a story that if you eat fish on her set, you have to go home. That she doesn't even allow fish on her set. But for some reason, she looks like she smells like tuna to me. I don't know what it is about her. Yeah, but apparently she treats her staff terrible. Weird shit. There's like those weird things where you can't look her in the eyes if she's walking down the hallway and all that kind of shit. Fucking weird. Real weird. But it's that same thing. And I think what that is, because Ellen DeGeneres is a comic. And I think, dude, I've even gotten bored with jokes doing them for a while, where I'm switch up. I'm like, I got to change something in this bit. It's getting way too stale for me, where it's just like doing it the same way over and over again. It works, but it's like after a while, you gotta get rid of it for a while, because it gets boring. And unless you're a great actor, it's hard to keep it fresh when you actually aren't motivated to do it anymore in front of a crowd. They almost start knowing like, oh, this guy's doing his act. And you can tell she's just going through a recital, if you will, rather than making it feel like a genuine conversation with the crowd. But I feel like she is probably, the way she treats her staff and the way she treats guests and having these outbursts and all these weird control and rules, it's probably a byproduct of being a comedian who's trapped in a hamster wheel, where it's like it's getting so repetitive. All these little weird, she does like all the interviews of the weird internet sensations, where it's like, this kid and his pet canary just did Adele Hello. And they're like, you watch like a 3-minute video of a little kid being like, and yes, I know I just did Adele, Someone Like You, but I've already committed too hard to it. But then she'll just interview and have all these cookie cutter interviews, and they're so like politically correct. It just doesn't work anymore. The jig is up. I feel like we're entering a good age of entertainment. I think we're past the whole movie star, mysterious celebrity stage, where it's like we're just evolving with the sense of entertainment. You watch like an old movie from like the 70s, it doesn't hold up at all. And it's either because our minds we're just such goldfish with our attention spans because we have so many inputs, or we've just evolved past that form of entertainment where people are just like, oh yeah, you can't even, the average length of a cutscene in a trailer is like 3 seconds and it's like all action. But it's like, maybe we've just gotten numb to that silly format of like, in a world where a man loves a woman. And then it just cuts to a man who's like, I really love you, but you're just making things hard for me. He doesn't know what to do. I don't know what to do at all. And then it's just like these super... Dude, go back and watch a trailer from like the 80s, even the 90s. That voice, in a world where everything was nice. Everything in this world is super nice. It wasn't going to be any longer. I feel like it's not going to be nice any longer. It was just the most simple shit. And I feel like that doesn't work anymore. And I feel like those formats of Jimmy Fallon pretending to laugh in an interview just doesn't work anymore. It's just like no one cares about that shit anymore. It's not real. And once you know it's not real, it's like once you know a magic trick, how it works, it's not cool anymore. And I think we all know the magic trick is up with those forms of media and pretending that those are real interviews and real questions. I think that's why I think podcasts are doing so well, and people like the long form and they like just conversations and not overly produced and everything like that, where you really are just having a connection. And dude, it blows my mind when people write me how much they like the podcast. It blows my fucking mind. I'm just like, dude, I feel like this is just shitty. And I'm like, I need to be doing more than what I do on here. Cause I'm just like, I don't know why people would like these conversations. And I know sometimes these conversations are just with myself. And most of the time they're just with myself, but it just blows my mind that people crave real conversations and just real ideas when you're not trying to fit like a cookie cutter idea. You're not trying to be completely politically correct. And that's one thing that I've had to steer away from, because I almost felt like I was almost going to go down that path where it was like you start thinking about what people would want you to say on a podcast, and you start thinking about what people would expect you to say on a podcast. But then I'm like, nah, I can't do it that way. I have to pull out. Giggity, story of my life. I think that's the whole thing with social media and everything. I think that's why I get so toxic to social media. It's because I feel like people post a lot of stuff, especially during this climate, that they feel like they should post because they've either been guilted or shamed, or they want those social brownie points where it's like, and people literally try to guilt people into their movements. Do you want to be on the right side of history? It's a crazy world. But yeah, Ellen DeGeneres, bye-bye, Ellen DeGeneres. Welcome to the Evan DeGeneres show now, That made no sense, but that's a beautiful thing about these podcasts is they don't have to make a lot of sense. I'm just talking, I'm just figuring it out, Dude, if you guys haven't seen, okay, it's obviously, we're in like a half quarantine state right now. So your boy's been trying to watch some new stuff, okay? I can only watch The Office so many times, okay? I watched the 6-part series of Waco. If you haven't seen Waco, the 6-part miniseries on Netflix, holy shit. Originally on the Paramount Network, holy shit. That shit is wild. I had forgot how it ended. To be honest, I never really knew how the whole Waco thing went down. If you don't know what I'm referring to, it's about this church-like cult out in Waco, Texas, where this dude was doing polygamy and marrying underage women. But here's the thing. It was legal in Texas what he was doing with the girl that he married who was like 14. I guess that was legal in Texas, or I don't know if it still is, as long as the parents say yes, which they did in that situation. So technically, this dude wasn't really breaking the law. And one thing that they were trying to bust him on, the ATF, was on dealing illegal guns. but they had no proof. And they went into this huge standoff where it was a crazy amount of time. I don't want to spoil it because I really want you to watch it. Where they had a standoff with this religious cult. It's mind-blowing that this really happened. And the result of this is mind-blowing. If you want another situation where you're like, holy shit, corruption, watch Waco, Texas. Actually, it's just Waco. In Waco, Texas. It'll blow your fucking mind. By the third episode, it pops the fuck off. And then from there on out, you're just like, what the fuck? And that final episode, holy shit. Episode 6, holy shit. Holy shit bars. It's a crazy ass show. I want to talk about it more, but I'm gonna give you 1 week to watch it. Okay, it'll be plenty of time. I think they're like 40-minute episodes. You got plenty of time. What else do I got on here that I want to talk about? Oh, this is what we'll end on. This is something that your boy has always been looking for, stuff like this. Have you guys seen the new scare of swine flu? I'm being silent, waiting for a response. Okay, some of you said yes. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. There's a new thing going around, a new scare tactic by the media talking about swine flu, that there's another one coming around and it could grow with, it could be the pandemic level. But here's the thing. Who the fuck is calling me right now? Bullshit. I need to silence this shit when I'm doing podcasts. Swine flu. There's a thing out there, and it's a scare tactic that there is this, I believe it originated in China. Go figure. That's one thing. We do need to go to war with China. Are we going to lose? Probably. But you guys want to protest everything going on here, you should add China to your list, because the ethics and the environments that they raise animals in is what is causing a lot of these zoonotic diseases. You create these crazy environments, and you're going to have strains morphing and adapting to be able to jump to humans. And that's something that's happening with this swine flu. We'll call it swine flu part 2. That's happening in China right now, because the environments, and you're having these farmers who are working on here, they're actually getting the swine flu from these pigs. And it's pretty terrible. They're saying it's levels of H1N1, which was a terrible flu that ripped through early 2000s, I think. And 2009-ish, I think. And the only thing is that they're not reporting that. There's no human-to-human transmission yet. So it's not pandemic level. And while all these articles are saying that it could reach pandemic level, they're all leaving out the fact that there's no human-to-human transmission. And while everybody's making these articles on one expert that said it could jump, they're trying to use it as a scare tactic when you have so many experts saying that it's not likely. So I don't think this is something that we need to worry about yet. I do think if you go back and listen to the episode that I did with Laura, the pangolin expert, and we talked about zoonotic diseases and everything, it is in general something that we should be worried about. And a way to avoid it is better practice and care of factory farming and international factory farming and wild animal, exotic animal trafficking. These are huge things that need to be taken serious, because eventually they will jump and they will get the receptors needed to be able to infect us and have that human-to-human transmission. That's the huge thing. While there are a lot of people getting this swine flu, it's only from one swine to a person, and it can't be spread, allegedly. I don't know if more evidence has came out by now, but I just think it's something that they're trying to use as a scare tactic. Before I get out of here, one thing I've been seeing, and it's so silly, you start seeing this argument on the mask. I don't understand the whole mask argument of when people don't want to wear a mask and how it's going in on their rights and everything. There was a thing in Orange County. No, it wasn't Orange County. I just love shit on Orange County because it's Orange County. A lot of people are saying that their argument of why they're not going to wear a mask is because the WHO and CDC said that they weren't anything in the beginning. So I'm going to stick with that analysis of it. It makes no goddamn sense when you keep that kind of mindset on things. The CDC and WHO has came out and said the reason they did that was because they knew there was going to be a shortage for hospitals and healthcare workers. And some of you, I see these such cocky people on social media making these articles about how there's a zero, but like the masks don't even work. Do you know, like, how do you not even break it down to think that there's some masks that are effective? Like, there literally are the job of masks. If there was no masks, why would healthcare, like if there was no effectiveness of masks, why would healthcare workers be wearing them? If there's 0%, what if there was 1%? You don't give a shit about that. It's literally a barrier, and people love to cite science when it's only in their favor. That's always the craziest thing. It's crazy. I think this is one thing that we need to shed, and is this idea of not being able to change your position once you have new information. And people are ready to die on a certain hill that I'm like, you're ready to die here for this. It really is that big of a deal for you. I think it goes back to weird people's childhoods and shit, where they had to deal with such shaming for having the wrong answer, or, you know, if they messed up at all, it was huge. And I think it's some leftover shit from that, where it's like people refuse to admit they were wrong because it was going to be embarrassing and shaming, and there was a lot of repercussions. But I think when it comes to actual stuff that you're not connected to, there's no repercussions for changing your stance on something once you have new information. And I think it's good to have that policy with your life, is being willing to change your opinion and your stance once something else makes sense. Once you have objective data, you know? I think that would fix a lot of shit in this world. But then again, this is just a financial podcast, so what am I doing being so philosophical about life and shit? I'll be honest with you. I haven't written a lot of stand-up material since this all started. I've written down ideas. I got a folder on my phone/computer. I got it all synced up on OneNote. If you're ever looking for something to keep your notes all synced up, OneNote. That's the way to do it. You can organize it greatly. But I just write down ideas and things that are funny and things that I can work on. But here's the beautiful reason why I'm glad I haven't started really dedicating so much time to, like, when I get on stage, this is going to be ready, I'm going to have 15 new minutes, is because shit's becoming dated so fast in this pandemic. Can you imagine if I wrote Corona drink jokes in the beginning where I was like, yeah, that's why I didn't drink too much Corona? That joke died out so fast. It became such a dad joke so quick. I was working on one joke where I was talking about how New Yorkers could never pretend they were tough again based on the death count from coronavirus. Bars. I feel like, I really hope when everything comes back to, or things aren't going back, when everything starts opening up, people aren't as sensitive as they are right now with certain things. Everybody is playing a game of gotcha. Okay? Everybody just wants to get everybody else. And I think a lot of it is people want to get everybody else before they can get them. That's how I feel about it. Bars. But no matter what, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have a great 4th of July weekend. Do not light fireworks because my dog is afraid of them. Okay, she's already needy and attached AF. But I hope you barbecue some great shit. I'm going to be making some wings. I'm going to be making a nice little steak tonight on the Traeger. Nice little steak on the Traeger. I know I keep hinting at more videos, but I need to start filming some Traeger stuff. I feel like it's such an art form to cook for me that I just really got to put it out there on film. So one day my kids can watch it and they can be like, wow, Pops was fucking killing it on that grill. I had no idea, you know? That's why I do it. But But no matter what, remember, at the end of the day, I still love you, even if you eat boneless wings.